I'm a nurse in Wales, in South Wales, in Swansea. About a week ago, I was very tired, incredibly tired. I wasn't aware of any loss of taste or smell until about 3 days into it. But a cough and fever started around the Friday, so I isolated myself. Now, I've been working closely with staff that have been working with the first wave of patients coming into our hospital. So I've been in contact with staff who've been in direct contact with COVID-positive patients. So the transmission to me has been through work from member of staff to me. It's a relentless virus. If I cough or anything, I apologise. In fact, I acquired the symptoms the same day as Boris Johnson, so it's about the only thing that we have in common. And I believe he's still in quarantine as well. I'm in quarantine now till the cough goes and the sweats go. So thank you for having me. If I seem a bit drift away, it's because I'm not feeling too great. But this is a great opportunity for me to get rid of my nightmare, I hope. Do you want me to start the nightmare?
Yeah, that would be great, Libby. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
It starts, forgive me if I drift off because I'll be visualising it. It starts with me in a hallway, and the hallway seems very empty, very light as well. There's light within the hallway, and it's very tall. I'm very small within the hallway. I look towards the door, and the door is open, and outside it's quite black. I walk towards the door because I want to close the door. And certainly on closing the door, I can't close the door, and I'm looking out, and I feel, if I can describe it, as complete terror as I look out. It's very black out there. I can feel that there is something out there that's coming towards us within the house. As I'm trying to close the door, I realise that the door is enormous, it's huge, and it's very thick. And when I look up, I can see the top of the door is so far away from me. And in fact, I'm very small within the doorway. As I look out, there's trees that are very almost childlike, from, if you can imagine a child's drawing, very thin trunks, but many of them all put together, very closely knitted together, and at the top, almost abnormal looking leaves. And above that, just black, moving blackness of different kinds of, I know there's movement. When I look to the left of it, the trees end suddenly, and then there's just a vast amount of space. You can see nothing in the distance but movement. I run back into the house after closing the door, and I'm trying to, there's a party, there's a very, very lively, happy, noisy party everywhere on the stairs and in the hallway, which seems to go on forever. There are people standing in crowds, laughing and drinking. There's some dancing. There's music on. I can hear there's music. Couldn't tell what the music is. And people are standing up the stairs. As I go from group to group, from person to person, I'm grabbing at their arms and I'm trying to pull them to the back of the house. I'm aware that I'm talking and I'm trying to trace them that they're in danger and we have to get out. So I'm grabbing at their arms, I'm grabbing at their hands, I'm grabbing at their bodies, and they're shaking me off. And when I look at them, I can't see any faces. I can see hair, but they always turn away. And in some occasions, when I do glimpse, it's almost a blank face. And it's like they can't hear me, but they are shaking me off. And it's like I'm invisible. This goes on for quite a lot of the dream. I'm running around trying to convince people that we're in trouble and we have to leave the house. At some point, I move up the stairs and come down. And as I come down, I will walk further past the bit of the hallway I've been running around into another part of the what I can only say is like another room. And in one corner there's someone leaning up against the side of a wall, a corner of the wall in fact, and it's someone I know, I instantly know. All the others don't have any identity, but this person I know, they're very relaxed and they're holding a glass of something and they're smiling. They've got about 3 people talking to them. They are listening and smiling. As I run towards them, they look at me. It's the only person that I can see their face and who actually can see me and who acknowledges that I'm there and that I'm scared. And I can't speak by this time. I'm really breathless and I can't speak and I'm in complete terror. But they know, I can see from them that they know that something's coming, but they're not moving, and that I have to just calm down and that everything's going to be all right. I can see that from what they're telling me through their eyes. Now, this is someone who I love, and it interchanges over. This is a dream that's been going on for many years. It can change that person, but it's someone I trust and love usually, always, and that person doesn't move though. So I run towards them and I hold their face and I say, we have to go. And they take my hands down and laugh and just turn back to the people that are entertaining them. The terror in me I can't describe. It feels like you're almost going to die. And then I move from that into, I'm always looking at the back of the house because that's where I'm aiming to run to. I managed to get through the hallway into another room, and suddenly the room is not a party, and it's quiet, and it's a very white room, it almost looks like an old hospital that I used to work in, very white walls, the flaking paint. I focus in on that because instantly my eyes are drawn to the high windows, very high windows that you can't see out of. And on top of one of the window ledges is a very, very old ventilator that goes back in time when I was a very young nurse. And dangling down is the old corrugated pipe that's made of, in my dream, is made of corrugated black. The colours of white and black against each other. I'm confused because I'm thinking that's not right. And when I look down, there's 2 or 3 beds. They kind of drift into phasing. And there's someone lying on the bed who's has got a face, but is dead for all I can see. They're not moving and they're not breathing. In the dream, I'm less in panic in this room. I suddenly can take a breath to some extent, but again, I can't get the air in. I go to the ventilator and I try and pull the hose down so that I can give the patient some oxygen from the ventilator. And the ventilator is opening and closing, and it's making a very audible click that's very familiar from years and years of intensive care. And it's very calming, actually. It's a very calming click. So I'm calm, but I can't breathe very well. I can't get the hose to meet the patient's face. And there's nothing there anyway. There's just a face. There's no equipment to attach it to anything. And that makes no sense to me. And there's a hopelessness in me that I can't pull this. So I pull it a bit more and it moves off the top shelf. So it's quite high above me. And I think it's going to fall on me. But I'm still trying to pull it down to the person's face. But it's short. It's about that much short per person. So it's never going to work anyway. I'm then aware that the terror in me is exhausted me, and I really am not breathing very well. And I'm aware that there is my mum is sitting in the room in a chair, and on her lap is a black cat. My mum isn't talking to me; she's just stroking the cat or not doing anything. It's just holding. She's not looking at me. She's just there. Sorry. And at that point, I lie down on the floor, and I'm thinking I'm going to die because I can't breathe. And as I lie on the floor, I close my eyes, I'm aware of the cat on top of me, and it kind of lies on my face. But it seems to grow, so 1 minute it's very small on my face, it's obstructing my face, and then it seems the heaviness of the cat seems to grow, and at some point the cat looks at me and starts licking my face, but also licking my mouth, and at that point I wake up. And that's my dream.
Well, thank you, Libby. Thank you very much. Yeah, that is quite a nightmare. We can see that. Thanks. So just for everybody there, because some people just to have the whole scene of it. Libby was in a room where there was quite a party going on, and she was trying to warn people of something outside, that they were ignoring her. Even somebody who was friendly to her was ignoring her. And she then moves to a room which is more like a hospital, and needing to try and give somebody the ventilation. Oh, thank you, Libby. What we'll now do is to just kindly ask Libby to repeat it again. Is that okay, Libby?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh, that's great. It's just that helps. First of all, that helps Julia, but it also helps. Oh, we've just had somebody joining us from Kyoto. Oh, and so we will just listen for the second time, just in as much detail as you did the first time. Thank you, Libby. Just
Okay.
because we're just trying all to understand what happened in the dream, and also Julia's needing as much detail as possible. So if you wouldn't mind just starting again from the beginning. Thank you.
That's all. I am in a hallway. It's a huge house. I got the feeling of a large house. I'm in a hallway, and it's very light. I don't know whether it's natural light or anything, but it's light. And at that time, I'm aware that the front door is open. So it seems like the hallway goes on for a long time till I get to the front door. When I get to the door, I am fearful and I'm scared, and I think I'm going to shut that door. And when I look out, I'm scared. I need to shut this door. It's a very large, heavy door, very thick, and it's very tall above me as well. As I stand in the door, I'm very, very aware. Small. I'm not as tall as I am. I'm small, and the door's very, very huge, and the top of the door is a long way from me. So the idea that I can shut this door is impossible. I look out into the distance from the front door, and I can see blackness, just a vast expanse of blackness. And on the right side of me is a forest, and it's made up of childlike trees almost. So they're many, many trunks of just bare trunks that are lined up together, very closely together, that you can't see anything through them. Many, many of them that go up very tall into the sky, and at the top there's very abnormal leaves at the top that disturbs me when I'm looking at them. As I'm in the dream, I'm thinking, that's not right. A lot of the time, that's not right. I'm instantly filled with complete terror. I look to the left of the outside the door, and the tree stops sharply, almost like a square, and it's just completely black. But movement, there's a lot of movement. And in that movement, I have an overwhelming sense of horror and fear, and I'm really scared, and terror, and I've given up moving the front door, and I run back into the house. And this time when I run into the house, I'm into the hallway. There is a party going on, a large, noisy, happy gathering. There's music going on. I can hear the music. I can see people dancing in the corner. And there's groups of people standing, twos and threes and more, laughing and drinking. And as I go from group to group, I'm pulling at them because I want to get them out the back door. You know, we have to run away from here. I can't close the front door, so we have to run. And I'm dragging at their arms and their bodies, and I'm pleading with them and begging them to come. And as I'm doing this, I'm aware that the panic has caused me to be short of breath, and I cannot get my breath back. I'm incredibly short of breath, and I cannot get the people out of the hallway. As I'm dragging at them, it's almost as though I'm invisible and they're shaking me off. So a lot of them, I'm pulling their arms, and it's almost like it's at a distance, and I'm still pulling, and they're not moving. And as I look at their faces, there's no face, there's just hair, and they've turned away. And occasionally, I see that there is actually no face on some of them if I look closer. So I don't want to do that. That's horrific. So although they're talking and they're dancing, they have no faces that I can see. I run up and down these stairs a number of times, and it makes me very breathless, and I can't speak. So the shouting and screaming and mostly silent, and I'm trembling in terror, and I'm still trying to pull people down and pointing to the back of the house. As I move from that part of the hall, I'm thinking I've got to get people out. I pass into another part of the hall, and it feels like it's not another room, it's another part of the hall. And leaning up against the wall on the corner before the next, I always thought it was a kitchen, but another room, is someone that I do know, and I know their face, and I know everything about them. And I run towards them and stand in front of them, and they're talking to three people, and they're holding glasses of wine, and people are talking to this person, and that person is listening to them, but starts to look at me, is aware of me, and so doesn't turn to me, but looks at me, and instantly, even though I can't speak, because I'm breathless, they're aware of my terror, and they're aware of the danger that's coming, of the monster that's outside this house, but they're not moving, and they're sipping their wine or whatever's in their glass, and they're calm, and they're communicating to me through their eyes that I know you're going to be fine, just be fine, be still. I can feel them doing that, and I'm still thinking we have to get out. And this is there's a connection within the dream that's incredibly powerful, and it doesn't calm me. I run towards them and I hold their face and I say, we have to get out. And they take my hands and drop them from their face and laugh. And then I move back from them and they turn back to entertainment with their friends. But that's the only person whose face I recognise in the dream so far. I then move into the next. I'm doing a lot of running and a lot of panting, and in this dream. And I move into the next room. I'm suddenly in the next room because I'm looking for the back door. In the next room, suddenly everything changes, and it's a very white room, and it's like an old Victorian hospital I used to work in, and it's very white, old paint flecks, and I'm instantly calm with the fact I know this room, and my eyes is drawn around the room, and I can see that there's windows at the top, so you can't see out of them, but there's a ledge, and on the ledge and it's very high above you. I can't get to it. There's a very old ventilator perched on there with a tube dangling down, ventilator tubing dangling down, corrugated, but it's black and it should be white. I'm very struck. This is wrong. It should be white and not black, and it's against the white wall, the white old wall. And I look down and there's 2 or 3 beds. I can see 2 beds clearly, but one of them, I know there's another one over there. I'm aware of other beds. And on the bed I'm standing by, there's a patient, and they're just lying very still. lying on their back very still, not moving, not breathing, with their eyes shut. And I'm thinking, oh, they're dead, and I've got to pull this tube down to their face so that they can breathe. And I try to pull it, but it's about this much short. I can't get it to the face, and I'm trying to pull the ventilator tubing down a bit more, and it moves from the shelf, and I'm thinking it's going to fall on my head. And then I'm aware I can't breathe. I'm completely in panic now because I can't get the tubing to the patient's face, even though I can't do anything with this tubing. There's no endotracheal tube or anything that would help this patient, but I just am trying to do something, and I'm incredibly breathless and trying to breathe, but realise I can't get any air in. So I stand back and I look a bit more for something that can help me. So I'm aware then that my mum is sitting. My mum is actually deceased, but she's sitting in a chair a bit back. It's almost, it feels like a long way away in the room, but the room can't be that big, but it's not by the side of the bed, and it's quite a distance back. And on her lap is a black cat. And we've got a black cat that used to sit on her lap. Anyway, I instantly feel I can't breathe anymore, so I lie on the floor beside the bed with the person who is dead, and I close my eyes, and I'm next aware that the cat has rolled up my face, has come and has lain on my face, and it's heavy, and I can feel the fur in my mouth and in my eyes because I open my eyes. And the cat then seems to get much bigger, it seems to be huge, and this black domestic cat has now turned into a panther, and it's now licking my face, and it's actually licking my mouth, and then I wake up, and that's my dream.
Thank you, Libby. Thank you. I'm just going to check with Julia now.
If you can read it, that'd be good. If you can read it back.
Oh, if I could read it back. Okay. Julia's wanting me to read it back to you. Is that okay? And that way we'll all try and get it just in our minds. Is that okay? And I'll just say first of all that you're at a corridor. I'll just summarise it first of all, and then I'll read it back in detail, and then Julia will have that detail. So you're starting off at a corridor trying to keep out what's dangerous outside, and you then go into a party with lots of people who ignore you. You then find people who are friendly to you but who are telling you not to worry and everything will be okay, and you then go into a separate room that's then more like a hospital room, is which has old equipment in it, and in which you see your mother with a cat, and there is then yourself with a cat, and the cat on your face and stopping you breathing. Great. I'm just going to read it back to you. Is that okay, Libby? And then and then people who are online may have questions of detail about the dream, because once this is done, what we want is as much detail as possible of the dream. At this early stage, we are just interested in getting as much detail about the dream as possible, and after this we'll then discuss with Libby all the things that have been happening in her work as a nurse during the current crisis. Right, you okay, Libby?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to read this back. Libby's in the hallway of a house. It's light inside and warm, and you have a sense of danger. You can see through the open door, and you go through the front door and you want to shut that door, and you stand in the doorway to do so, and you look out and it's very black dark outside, and you're scared and you're trying to close the door, but it's a huge door and tall, and you're aware that you're quite small in the doorway. You keep looking up, and in this dream you find it odd that you're so small. You look out and there's like a forest. The trees are like kids' trees. The trunks are really close together, and loads of them with leaves at the top, but the leaves at the top have become strange, and you feel scared. You know something is out there, and to the left the trees stop and you just see it's all just black and nothing there. Do stop me if I'm wrong or if any detail comes up, Libby. Thank you. You go back into the house. There's a party in the hall, which is a large hall. Could I just ask what colour the walls are? Do you know if they had any colour?
They're light. I know they're light.
Light colour.
They're light colour. And the light, the one thing I did miss is later on when I'm trying to get everybody out, the room is quite light, even though it's a party. And I know the walls are white, if anything, but
right.
Suddenly there is a presence of a very large white light in the hall. So it's very light in the house. The house is very light and gets lighter for some strange reason.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So you've gone back into the huge, large hall. As you just said, it's very light in there, even though it's a party. And you're shouting at the people that we have to go out the back. That's to escape.
Yeah, but I can't always get the breath out of me to say the words. So I think I'm saying the words, but there's not enough breath to say the words. So initially I'm begging them to get out, and then I realise my voice has gone and my breath has gone, and I can't talk anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to drag them out.
Yeah, right. So you're pulling at the people, shouting that you have to go out the back of the hall, but they're all partying couples and groups of people dancing. And as you go from group to group, person to person, they ignore you. They try to shake you off as you try to pull them, but they're laughing. When you look closer, they have no faces. You can see their heads turn or away, or no faces, although you can hear they're talking. You panic and you can't breathe, and you feel a light across the room, but you can't describe because it's unnatural. You frantically scream now and no one is listening. You're pulling at arms and begging them. Across the room is the edge of this lovely park. Leaning against the wall is a man. He's relaxed and a few people are talking to him. You can't see their faces, yet you can hear them talk, and they have hair, and you can see their hands with glasses because they're drinking. And this man is calm, and you know him, and he's aware that I'm there. Can you describe anything about him, what his clothes were, or his hair, or what his face?
This person is sometimes my partner, it's sometimes someone I work with, and it's always incredibly accurate, only for the clothes they wear within the dream are very foreign to that person. So it's almost a mismatch of anybody I've ever loved in my life into this one person. So probably the only nice thing about the dream is that person is often someone from the past. And as I turn away, sometimes it can change into another being, if that makes sense. But that I know there's a lot in the dream where I think I'm aware that this isn't right. This isn't right. So that sometimes it will be my partner, and then it will be an ex-partner. I think that's not right. So I'm aware that at some point that this is, I'm in a nightmare, that this isn't real. because this keeps changing. That's the bit in the dream where I think, oh, actually that's a bit surreal. But that person is someone I'm very connected with, who instantly I think, at last I'm home, and I need to get, this person's going to save me and everyone else.
Right, because he's a mixture of people who you've cared for and loved, and who've loved and cared for you. And why are his clothes a mismatch? What are his clothes in the dream?
For instance, the ones I've had this dream twice this week. He's wearing clothes that he doesn't. I've actually concentrated on the top bit and the trousers. He doesn't have trousers that are like that, and I can see the colour of the trousers are kind of reddish, which is very bizarre. He doesn't have any red trousers, so now I've got the memory now. But I'm like, what's he doing with red trousers on? He's actually in my head in the dream. We progress on because I'm in panic. It's bizarre. You've sparked that memory, but yes, the clothes in the dream are not. And he's got a shirt under a jumper, and he never wears a shirt under a jumper, and that ekes me.
Right.
Previously in this dream,
Oh wow! So it's red trousers, which are out with real life, but it's red trousers. And what colour top has he got on, or the jumper?
I don't know. I'm aware that it's a white shirt under a jumper, and it's just a dark jumper. But I know they're red trousers because that's the thing I thought. He hasn't got any of them.
Right. Okay. So it's red trousers and a white shirt, which is underneath a dark jumper.
That are very foreign to him. You know, he doesn't dress like that. So that was.
Yeah. Okay, but he is a sort of a mixture of people who you would think who have cared for you, and so you're speaking to him. The man is calm. You know him, and as we've just found out, he's got red trousers, a dark jumper, and a white shirt. He's aware you're there. This is the first person who's been aware of you. He smiles at you. You can't talk though, and you can't breathe. You've lost air and you feel sheer terror. He looks at you, and the sudden awareness of what he's saying and there's a sudden awareness of what he's saying. He smiles at you. You breathe. He smiles at you. You grab his face and you say, "We have to go. We have to get everyone out." But the people are still sipping drink and talking to him.
He doesn't speak to me. He's just looking at me. So
right.
Even though he knows I'm there, and he's talking to me with his eyes.
Right, and he knows what you're thinking, that everyone's got to get out. So he's the first person to know.
He's in my head.
Yeah, he's the first person to know this. The other ones around him are still sipping drinks. And you're invisible to them, but he can see, but he says nothing, just smiles, and you feel panic again. And that's because he then reassures you that everything's okay and you'll be fine. So then you realise he's not going to help in all this.
But he doesn't say it.
No, he doesn't say it, but you suddenly realise that he knows what you're saying, but he thinks everything will be fine. So you then let the panic in you rises again, and you go into a room next to the hall, which is a white room, an old room with high windows and a few beds. In one bed is a small person who you can see not breathing, and you can feel yourself not breathing as you look up to the window. And there's a ventilator high up. It's really an old bellows type of ventilator that's working, and you can see the bellows fill and expire the air. You see the tube, and it's a tiny bit short, but you can't connect it. It doesn't reach. So now you're very aware of the monster outside coming for us all. You can look and see the back of the room where there's an open door, and you run and call for help. And you can't breathe. You go back to the patient. They have a face and you don't know them. And you pull the tube, which is a corrugated tube, to the patient's face. And the ventilator moves. Does that mean moves towards the...
Yeah, it's like it's going to fall off the shelf. It's not stable.
Right, yeah. So the ventilator, this old ventilator, is up on a shelf. The monster's outside. You can hear the party. And you've had this dream for years, but it's now changed to a grim white room with this ventilator in it, and it's like your old ITU, intensive care unit in London. The equipment is old, and you're struggling to breathe in this dream. You go from warm to really cold, and you're struggling to breathe. You want to lie down, to lie on the floor, so tired because your skin is dirty. And you're then aware that a cat's on your chest with its face in your mouth. Now, just before that, your mother was there, wasn't she, in the chair with the cat?
She was in a chair away from the scene almost. And in the dream, I don't know whether she's there or whether she's my imagination within the dream. I'm not sure, but she's sitting with the cat on her lap.
Yes. And then the cat gets...
I think one of the... Yeah, the cat, then I close my eyes on the floor. Her presence in there, whether it's there or in my head, is very calming, so I lie on the floor.
Right.
But I'm very aware that I'm very, very cold in this room and very dirty.
Right. So your mother's been calming, you lie on the floor, but then the cat gets onto you and the cat gets bigger.
Yeah, it puts his head in my mouth, if that sounds strange.
Yeah.
Then it curls around on my face and then grows. I've got my eyes closed for a lot of it, and as I'm aware, actually the cat's now turned into a very big black cat and big face on my face, and then starts licking my face and my mouth. Yeah, I have its tongue in my mouth at some point, so that wakes me up.
Right, because a big teeth cat with a huge cat the size of a tiger on you.
Yeah.
On your mum's lap it was tiny.
Yeah.
And then having that on you wakes you up.
Yeah, and I really can't breathe. The weight of that cat is almost the end point for any breath.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you, Libby. Thank you. What I'm going to do now is I'll just ask Julie whether we could get people who are online to ask questions. So what we're going to do now, thank you, Libby. What we're going to do now is ask the people who are on the event whether they've got any questions, but the questions are only about the dream. So what we're doing in this first part of it is finding out aspects of the dream, nothing to do with Libby's waking life at the moment. So it's questions, for example, that the trees outside were, so they're like children's trees. So they would have had green leaves all on the top of them.
That's the other thing. I can see that there's leaves on it, even though it's very dark out there. So throughout the dream, I'm thinking that's me. So even at the start of the dream, I'm thinking that's not right. But I still think I'm still in a nightmare. I'm not able to think this is a dream. So don't be silly. So even the trees look silly. And I shouldn't be able to see leaves, but I can see leaves. I can't tell if they're green or anything. I'm aware of shapes of leaves, like a children's picture.
Right.
So you have like the branches out with leaves on them.
Right, and it's quite dark outside there.
Yeah, really black, but I can see that that's got little leaves on it. So,
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you, Libby. So what I'm going to do now is just ask people who are online to, if anybody. Oh, we've had somebody who did ask what the leaves were like, but I think did you just answer that? They're just strange near the
like
top.
if you got a child to paint the leaves, it was just like little blobs.
Right.
Just a blob, like a fingerprint.
Like a fingerprint for a
Yeah.
a fingerprint for the leaves. Okay. Do you know what your mum was wearing?
No, but she had her slippers on, and they were her slippers. These big kind of Ugg-like slippers, and I didn't really concentrate on. And it was almost a mismatch of wool. So yeah, she was wearing a woolly kind of. You got my memory here, but she certainly had her slippers on, and yeah.
Oh, right. And do you know what colour those slippers are?
Yeah, they're kind of browny beige, and they were brown beige. Yeah, because I was like, "Who's that?" Looked at the slippers. That's my mum.
Right, browny beige ones. And what was she? What was she? When
Old. She was as she was died. Yeah.
Right, okay. And what are you wearing in the dream?
I think I'm just wearing, but I can't tell you. I wasn't conscious. What I was aware of in the dream is that I was incredibly nimble and small, and I'm not a small, nimble person. So it was almost like I was out of time. It was when I was younger. So, and I was able to run around despite the breathing. So I felt younger than I am now. But I've carried a lot of this dream with me for a long time. So I've grown up with these elements of the dream that have changed as things have happened in my life. But I think I know in the dream the people that are dancing and are in party clothes. So I was aware of A-line skirts on some of the girls, and shoulderless straps and things like that. I remember, that definitely was part of it. They were dressed for a party.
Right. And what were the men wearing? Were they wearing dark clothes as a formal party, or were they just wearing colourful?
They weren't colourful. They were nondescript. The men, I wasn't looking at them, but I could tell the girls were wearing dresses.
Right. Okay.
As I was dragging them, I was aware. I could see their whole arm coming because the shoulders were bare. So I was. Although I was dragging them, I was aware of their movement and their bodies, because they kind of go with me and then kind of shake me off and come back, and without even interrupting their conversation, without spilling a drink.
Right, because some of the women just had bare arms, and so it was easy for them to sort of throw you off while you were trying to pull them over.
And nobody spilled anything, and I remember thinking, nobody's moving. How can they not see me? How can they not move? But even though they were moving, because I was moving them, so I was there.
Yes. All right. And what was the floor like in the Great Hall?
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Yeah. And someone's asked, can you describe the cat? What colour was?
It's a black cat. Now this cat has evolved over the years. I've got a black cat at the moment that did used to sit on my mum's lap, but it's a black cat. In previous dreams, it's been a tabby cat. So the cat changes in my dream. So it's a black cat, and it turns into an enormous black panther. In previous dreams, it turns into a tiger. So it's almost, when I get to that point in the dream, I'm waiting for the huge, vicious tiger that's then going to be licking my face.
But more recently, with these ones, it's been
it changes with whatever cat I've got. It becomes that, actually. Which I hadn't.
Right. Yes.
In fact, no, it's only two cats. It's I've had lots of cats. The only two cats that have come into my dream are my tabby cat and this black cat.
Right. I'm just seeing who else has. Do the rooms in the dream? You mentioned one of them was like an old intensive care unit you used to be in, with white walls. That would have them, wouldn't it? So, and with the big windows. Are they arched at the top, or?
No, the windows are not big in my dream. In the actual room that I could say was one of the old intensive cares, because in my old intensive care it was huge windows, but there was some windows that were almost like skylight lights at the top, but they were on a recessed shelf. So there was a shelf right at the top, so you'd never physically be able to get to it. So we never used to use those shelves, but in this dream, the ventilator was out of arm's reach at the top, so you could never get to it, and it was too short.
Right. And the ventilator looked like bellows. You know, did it have handles, or it's all mechanical?
It's a mechanical, so it works on, you push air through it and it inflates and deflates, and it makes a noise like.
Yes.
And that can be if you're an intensive care nurse, that can be very calming because you can hear the breathing of the ventilator. But they're in museums now. We used to use them when I was a young nurse. And there's something strangely comforting about them because you can actually see the mechanics. Unlike nowadays ventilators that are computerized, you don't see the bellows mechanic. It's very differently made. So I think most people that have been in intensive cares in the 70s and 80s and early 90s would remember those ventilators. But I think the important thing about it is that it's too far away, it's too far up, it's in the wrong place.
Right. And what colour are the bellows?
So they're black.
They're black.
Exactly like, yeah.
Right. So they were sort of concertina
Like
that's vertical.
box.
Like a squeeze box, vertical.
Squeeze box, some steel doing this.
Right.
So that's happening in the dream. And that bit of it was quite comforting to me. So my mum and the squeezing action of the old bellows reassured me.
Yes. Right. And do you remember what clothes your mother had on, or what colour they are? You've already said that she had dark brown brown slippers.
She had a blanket over her, but I think they were all her own clothes. I wasn't drawn to that. More than her white hair and her. She didn't interact with me at all. She just had the cat on her lap. And seemed far away. I couldn't go and be with her or anything. She seemed far back in the room. But no, her clothes, there was nothing, just, I can't pull them off. Just the slippers were the most, they were the thing I thought, that's my mum and the way she is.
Yes. And what were the slippers? They were light brown, did you say?
They're brown and sort of a mix of beige and brown, sort of sheepskin slippers.
Yes.
But quite booty-like, so, and she wore them for years.
Okay, and with white hair she's got because of that. So, okay, and you've got the bellows, and just trying to get anybody else. And so, because you'd had the dream of the hallway before, someone's asked what's new this one, and it's the hospital room at the side is the main thing that's.
The new thing is the ventilator and the dead person on the bed. That's completely new. My mum dreams before this.
Mm.
Cats has definitely been there. They kind of appear at some point in my dreams. Previous dreams, it can often start with cat, but certainly in more recent years, in the last 5 years, the cat has been the reason I wake up, always the reason I wake up.
Yeah,
It
right.
comes at the end, and I usually do have to lie down on the floor because I can't breathe. So that's usually due to terror and panic, and it happens much faster usually. So what's new about this dream is it seems to go on. So usually I'm in the room trying to get people out, and I get to a point of completely losing my breath. And I've had other dreams where I come and there's a wall that's where I'm trying to escape to. There's a wall. There's all different endings. This one has been the hospital room that isn't really a hospital room. It's not fit for function. Nothing works, and the patient's already dead.
Right.
And I think one of the things I probably didn't come across is that this person is dead on the bed, and the ventilator's not connected, and will never connect. That's a big part of terror in me, that's failed as well. But all the time aware that the outside is coming in, and that it's going to come through the windows and the doors.
Yes.
And what's comforting about this room is that the windows are really small. So I like this room.
Right.
And it's really cold.
Right. And is the dead body, you can see the face of the dead body. It's not that the body hasn't yet been covered. It's,
it's
you can
lying
see.
there. In fact, the body's lying there and it's got black clothes on, just normal clothes. It's not in a gown. It's not a patient, it's a person. And it's a young person, but I don't know them.
Yes.
And I've only I had this dream twice in the last 2 weeks, so that hasn't changed. That person hasn't changed.
Right. That's a dead young person there. And what's their hair look like?
Black.
Black hair.
Dark brown, dark brown, black.
Dark brown, black.
They're about 20 something.
Right.
Because I did wonder if it was one of my children, but no, it's not.
Right, and with black clothes as well, and with the black squeeze
And
box
they've got
type.
shoes on as well. They've got some shoes on. I can't tell you what the shoes are, but you kind of think, why they've got shoes on a bed, you know? So that's all those things come in, don't they? Like that's out of place, really. No one's really cared for that person if they are in that demise of dying. They're just lying on the bed.
Yes, right. Yes. I'll see whether anyone else has. And your colour, your hair is your own colour hair in the dream, and like you say, you realise that the dream is bizarre or weird, but you don't know that it's a dream.
No, I don't know it's a dream. I think I've learned over time that when the cat enters the dream, it's a dream.
Right.
All right, because it's the most bizarre thing to have a cat lick in your mouth. So that's nice. I wake up.
Yeah.
So thank God for the cat.
Yeah. Right. I'm just going to check whether Julie's got enough detail there. That's great. Thank you, Libby. So what we can do now is to move on to the next stages. What we do very briefly to ask the people who are watching in, and we'll only be able to do this for a few minutes. And this part of it all is usually really quite brief anyway, but it's just to ask one or two people who are on the website what it would be like if what they think it would be like if they had this dream. And we just do this very, very briefly, just so that you can see how other people might react to it from their own lives. But then after that, what we're going to do is to spend more time talking to you, Libby, about what's been happening in the last few weeks. and talking about that. But at the moment, just one or two people, if they wanted to just very quickly say any thoughts that they have about the dream. If people don't have any thoughts about it for themselves, then they don't. We've had one comment that from one person: trees and leaves sort of sound a bit like damaged lungs. Has anybody else got any comments about what it would be like? If this dream would do to you. Another person saying how it sounds really scary and how scared they would be, especially if it was one that was going to repeat. So that's another person just saying how terrified they would be. And another person saying, it sounds a very complicated dream, but if they'd had one that was recurring like that, somebody's wondered about, somebody's actually wondered about sleep apnea. More in general, I guess, would be how they would, because they may not be in your work situation, and so would wonder that. And another person talking about the feeling of being ignored by other people, both as a child and as an adult, when you're trying and feeling sad about being ignored. Yes. Actually, one person has just asked a question, though, about the dream, which I guess I will just go back to you on it, about whether or not over time new people have been introduced to it. I guess your mother is new.
My mother's new, yeah, and the cat has changed.
Right, the cat changes, and the dead person on the bed.
And the person that is the person I love in the dream is changed, obviously, over time.
Yes.
But the interface, I suppose, of the past and the present.
Right.
It continues to anything has changed. The party and the people seem to remain exactly the same.
Yeah.
The room sometimes can be slightly smaller, slightly bigger. It can go faster as well. Sometimes it's not so much me running around. I seem to get to the end bit much quicker. But it always wakes me up with, it's back again.
Right. And is it only recently that it's had the dead body?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's a recent thing. So thank you for that question that somebody sent. Another person was talking about the dark forest. To them, it's quite a common thing in fairy tales. Beautiful but sinister. Right, I think I've looked at all those, so I think what we better start moving on to. One person asked whether there's any particular part of it that's the most memorable to you each time, but it seems to have lots of them.
I think the most memorable part is standing in the doorway, and there's a realisation that I'm tiny in comparison to what I thought I was. So I'm like a grown adult, but I'm the size of a child doorway, or I feel that, and that's when the overwhelming terror hits me. And I can't recover from that. It's a punch almost that, you've got to run, you've got to get away, and that I can't describe that so clearly in this, but that's throughout every bit of the dream. I have to get away, and there's obstacles in the way as I go.
Yes.
I can't commute, and I'm invisible almost.
Right. So those early parts are often quite peak. So thank you for the person who said that, and thank you all. And another person said for them that the idea of having party people without faces is a really interesting idea about there's all the people at the party, but they are, apart from the man who cares about you, the party people are faceless, even though, you know, they're all busy interacting with each other and having a nice party.
I see that there's no face. Most of the time they turn away and they've got their hair done, and I can see that they're turned away, and they're still, I can hear that they're talking, and I'm pulling at them. So I don't actually look at a lot of their faces. It's one or two I've noticed in this week, certainly, that I've actually tried to look at their faces in the team, or I've glanced and not seen any face.
Yeah.
And then the terror gets even more.
Oh, it's even more terrifying when you try to see their
And then I'm
face.
thinking, this isn't right.
Yes.
But I still don't know I'm in the dream yet.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does. You've had plenty of bits of it where you think something's not quite right, which is eerie, but it's not enough to make you realise it's a dream.
Because then when I move on to the person I love, who's communicating with me the way people do, I think, oh, this is real. Because that you can actually feel that emotion within the dream of love. Yeah. So I think, okay, this is real. It's even more terrifying. Then I'm back into the terror of I've got to save everyone. I've got to save him, save me. Let's get out. So every time I think this is odd, that I come back to the fact that he's in the dream, and so it must be real until I get to the cat.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and even more terrifying, like you said, with him, because he doesn't actually have to say it. He just looks at you, and then you realise what the look means is that he knows what you're meaning, but he doesn't believe it.
So, but if I had more clues that it was, because certainly it's interesting for me that when I get to the cat and that happens, I think, this is nonsense. You know, this is the dream again. Wake up. Whereas it was confirmed with his presence in it that it's real.
Yes.
I've always, if he wasn't there, I probably would wake up a lot quicker, I think.
Right, because at first he had a calming effect on you.
Yeah.
Until you realise the real situation, and your mother has.
And then you realise this is real because he's there, and I can feel the love and warmth, and that's real, isn't it? It's real. So I'm not questioning if it's real or not because of that confirmation. It's real, and I'm going to die in the dream. So
yes, and it's similar with your mother that she calms you down, but then the cat comes at you from her lap. So oh, well, thank you, Libby, for that. So we've had various people saying what it would mean, like if this happened to them. You know, you have a sinister but beautiful forest, for example. So now what we'll do is we'll move on just to ask Libby what's been happening for the last. When did the last time this dream occur?
It happened last weekend, and it happened a few nights ago. Yeah, I've had it twice this week.
Right.
I've not been sleeping very well.
Yes.
So usually when I sleep, it's caught in snatches. So I'm incredibly tired, and I am tired anyway because of the virus. But you can't sleep very well with the virus.
Yeah.
But do you want me to tell you about that?
Yeah, just what's been happening in the last, say, 2 weeks or so.
Well, I work as I said, I work as a nurse in South Wales, and all the wards in the hospital have been seeing patients suffering with possible COVID-19 symptoms, and so as they rolled in, you have the fear of what's happening on the outside and what people speak about outside, and the fear from the press and social media, and then the reality of a patient in front of you that needs your help. And the reality for many of us is that, certainly for me, is that I feel much calmer in the hospital. It's less scary dealing with it there because it's a human being, and certainly now having had it, it's kind of changed a lot of my ideas of how we look after people, because they're terrified once they get it. I was at work for a week with patients started to come in, and at the point was aware that I was becoming unwell. And certainly a number of us in my area have become unwell with COVID-19. So when I went off, patients were starting to come in at a slow trickle. I believe it's now ramped up quite a bit. The exposure to the fear of people around me. I also, I've been doing a communication site for my union on Facebook, and that's had a lot of queries and fears and scared health workers who are scared that they're going to die. We've been fighting quite hard for personal protection equipment, masks for our face, essentially so that we don't breathe in these droplets that become airborne then with aerosol. So our safety equipment has changed a lot recently, so there's a lot of staff that are not trusting the equipment we've been given, and we're not trusting the academics that say that we're going to be safe, because we're watching all the health workers around the world that have died, and as I'm sure most people would feel, health workers shouldn't die for going to work. They should have the proper equipment. So that's where we're at. So there's a lot of communication with me while I've been off sick from terrified nurses and health support workers and porters and domestics and doctors. And I've been trying to deal with them. So I've been inundated with people's fears and trying to give them the correct information so that they can stay safe. And that's had quite a powerful impact on me, I think, dealing with really brave people that go to work despite the fact that they may well contract this virus, and may almost certainly we're going to see people die. So that's a very real possibility. And it's two worlds at the moment. There's the general population that seem to be sipping wine in their gardens, and then there's health workers that are working really hard hours, long hard hours in very difficult conditions, with fear shaking through them, and leaving their young families. Some terrible stories. So that's where I'm in. When I became unwell last Friday, I thought I'd be okay. I'd be one of the ones that would go through very nicely. But by Monday, I couldn't get air into my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I had very, very severe tracheitis, and I thought I was going to have to go to hospital because I couldn't get air in. And I had the last part of my dream I had on Wednesday. I had particularly bad dream. So I wasn't surprised when I was in the dream that I really couldn't breathe. And it was very physical in the dream as well, whereas usually it's an emotional panic attack almost. To not be able to get air into your lungs that are usually very healthy. I've never had any health conditions with my lungs. I've never had a sore throat, and I've never had a chest infection in my life. To suddenly not be able to breathe, I woke from that dream, and certainly I woke up unable to breathe as well. I had to stand up and calm down, and I couldn't get the air in. So that evolved luckily, and I've recovered from the tracheitis. So that's why that dream happened. I completely can see that in the dream, what was a panic was also me not breathing physically, if that helps. So I've come out the other side. I have overwhelming respect for anyone that works in the health service now, anyone that's had anyone harmed by this virus, and anyone that's suffering it. It's a scary journey. You start out thinking, are you going to be one of the ones that are going to end up on intensive care? And it's every day relentlessly, doesn't change. It comes in waves. You get better, and then it comes back, and then it comes back, and that's been quite one of the significant things of this virus. So the overwhelming fear that I'm going to die has been a part of the last 7 days. And as I've tried to stay calm for my family.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that, Libby. And, you know, we're really grateful to you for being able to say it and
No, I'm lucky.
talking about it. Yeah.
I had good friends in the hospital that were able, and I had the equipment here to know when I was unwell. But it's had when the dream came back, I was almost like at the end of it, because you don't know it's back until you get to the cat. I thought, I did think that dream's going to come back, and back it came, so I'm hoping it's going to stay away.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you've been in your room there for that time?
I've been in this room since Friday. I nipped to the bathroom, and when you go to the bathroom, you have to wait 20 minutes before anyone goes into the hall because you're viral shedding, so it allows the virus to drop. So there's 2 bathrooms. I'm lucky. Bathrooms. A lot of people don't live in very small flats with 1 bathroom, so I don't know how people are doing it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Libby.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you for everything, but thank you also for telling us about it all now as well. I was wondering whether anybody had any questions about Libby's life and work, in which case you can type it in. Let me just... Somebody's typed in, "Bless you, Libby," with 3 kisses, another praise and thanks to you. So, so it may be that you've, said most of it for all of that, of what's been happening.
I wanted to ask you a question, Mark.
Yeah. Yes.
If that's allowed.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Is it usual that your physical illness and your physical disabilities enter your dream to the point where, because I was used to previously in this dream that I would be in a panic and that's why I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Whereas this dream I couldn't breathe because my body couldn't breathe. It was very physical. I'm just wondering, was there anything out there on that kind of effect, being unwell and sick, entering dreams? You don't have to answer it now, of course.
Yeah, no, I will answer it. I know they've done stuff on say, spraying water on people, and that goes into people's dreams about 40% of the time, and you dream about being in the rain or being showered or whatever. And so loads of bodily things that can happen to you do end up in the dream, yeah. I will have to look at, up, about what to say about physical illness. There's a famous thing of Freud having a dream of a woman whose jaw was being examined, and a few decades later he died due to a cancer in his jaw, so yes. But physical, how the body is physically, yes, that does. What I'm gonna somebody else says, "Much bigger than a personal dream." Thank you so much, Libby. I think that's a reference to the fact that it's a very socially relevant dream as well, with a big relevance to society at the moment.
I know. Can I just say, I know lots of people. We're all living this, aren't we? But health workers are really living it. It's almost been on last Saturday. I remember sitting in this room thinking, "Oh, this is quite nice." I can certainly lie around here for a week. I didn't know what was coming then. The idea that people have to go and really labour hard for 12, 13 hours a day, really, this seemed like a dream sitting in this room. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that it's a weird time for people to live in fear. 24 hours a day. You hope to get some relief in your sleep, don't you? So I'm sure there'd be many health workers I'm having terrible nightmares.
Yeah, and that's been one of the reasons for wanting to do this, was that it was a surprise to me, and it shouldn't have been a surprise to me, just about the effect this is happening. And so that's one of the reasons for starting this off now, that something is so bad that it even intrudes into their sleep and their dreams, and it would be good to give people the opportunity to talk about that. One person's just typed in to ask about your cat, and about one person said, are you ever allergic to cats? But you're probably not if you've got a cat. It's, you know,
I am not. I've always had a cat in my life. I've never been allergic, and they don't tend to sit on my face. I've never had a cat doing that. But no, I've actually got a black cat in my life at the moment. That's usually I've had a tabby before, but the cat I've got at the moment is not very friendly to me. So it doesn't jump on my lap. In fact, it hates me.
Right. Yes. But it's still interesting that if you've got the physical difficulty breathing in the dream, it sort of explains that by having you with a cat on you as a picture of that. Another person saying, thanks so much for sharing the dream. I'm so glad you're coming through this. Health workers are real heroes, and we owe them so much. So thank you for sharing your experience, which we'll all be thinking, Libby. Normally we read the dream back, but I'm thinking we could just go to thoughts, all of us, you know, you included, Libby, about the dream. And well, I don't know, I could just thoughts about the dream and how it relates to your waking life, and if needed I could read the whole thing back later. But I mean, what's striking to me is the really striking thing is how it progresses from you realizing there's something bad out there, you trying to tell people who won't even listen, then it's trying to tell people who can listen, and you know, someone who can understand what you're saying but then dismisses it. And then it's moving into the really serious phase where there's a dead body and there's equipment that's not suitable, and where your mother who has died is there, and then it's even a threat to your life as well, with the cat suffocating you. And so it's an interesting dream, that it sort of progresses from you warning everybody else to seeing the effects on people, and then to it's happening to you. So the progression of the dream is really quite sort of, it's a step-by-step thing, you know, which is probably pretty similar to how you've been in your professional life in the last few weeks.
I certainly the last bit of the dream, it's the horror of what's coming outside, the monster that's coming for me seems to have sat back a bit, where I'm dealing with trying to really breathe, trying to stay alive within the dream, and the fact that in that part of the dream I'm concentrating so much on pulling the ventilator, trying to get this corrugated tube to uncorrugate. So I pull it, and it would fit the patient. So I'm absolutely concentrating on that and not breathing. And I'm not sure if they're dead or they're asleep, but in the dream I'm sure they're dead. And it's that's not the horrific bit at all. The fact that body's dead, because I don't, you know, I can see them, but you know, I've dealt with a lot of dead bodies and dead people. That bit of it's fine. It's the fact that I can't breathe and I can't get the tube down to help them breathe. That's the bit that's the horror, is that I'm trying to, it's almost like a delay to get into the back door, if you know. I'm still trying to get to the back door, and now, oh God, I've got to deal with this body on the bed, you know. Looking back on it on Thursday, I was thinking about it, thinking, why didn't I just go to the back door and run?
Mm.
And just leave the room. And that always happens to me after this dream, whatever kind of has got. Why don't I just leave the house? Just go. Why am I trying to drag everyone with me? Just go.
Mm.
So, and that again is there's this body on the bed and I'm delayed, and then I've lost so much breath I can't. And I'm cold and I'm dirty and I just I lie down. I'm too tired, completely washed with exhaustion.
Mm. Yeah, and then you lie down. Yeah.
And that's the terror bit in it, is I lie down, and that's always bothered me, because in the dream I tend to just kneel down, lie down. I've had all kinds of ways where the dream has got with me coming to a point where I can't go on.
Mm.
So I don't know why they just ignored the person on the bed and just leg it.
Yes, and so you get the cat from your mother, but
Yeah.
yes. One person's commented, and this is very interesting, because what we're doing at this final part of discussing it with you is tying the dream to what you've said about what it's like when you're awake. And it's interesting that you mentioned about the two worlds that there are. There's the wine drinking world outside, and then there's the health workers.
Yeah,
And
I never put that together till now.
yeah, well, I have. This person has said the symbolism of the door that can be closed is interesting, especially when Libby talks about two worlds. There's the inside the hospital, and there's the outside people who are sipping wine in their gardens as if they were separate. But actually, you can't close the door.
No, I can't.
And whatever's out there could come into for the nice people in the party.
Yeah, I'm trying to save them. That's
Yeah.
why I'm in a panic. I don't know them either, which is interesting.
Yes.
It's not like,
yeah.
Yeah, but I've always wondered about that as well.
Yeah.
I need to leg it, I think. Stop worrying about other people. It's just, I'm certainly, having spoken to people that are not psychologists or anything, they've said, it's obvious, it's your job, isn't it? You're forced to look after people and put them first. So that's why, and I've never accepted that, because that makes health workers, nurses and doctors and everyone feel like it's a vocational right that you put yourself second, and I don't hold with that. So I've always said no to that one. No.
Yes. Good.
It's a job.
Yes.
It's a job. You don't want to die for it.
Yeah. Yes. Someone else has said the dream and life are becoming like one, which is one of the aims of this whole discussion process, is to try to see whether the dream is similar to waking life. Somebody else has said she thinks it's very important and positive that the cat turns into a jaguar, because jaguars are strong and powerful.
Yeah.
So
I quite like the cat in the dream. I used to be really disturbed by it. It's for me, it's a real comfort, because remember, I'm cold on that floor, and then I have this warm furry thing on my face. I know within the dream that I get comfort from that. But the heat stuff in the dream as well, going from warm to really cold, is it's disturbing in the dream. That's as terrible as it can be.
Yes. Somebody else talking about just the dream being a metaphor for the situation with coronavirus and people who deny the danger, and how that's hard to cope with, the fact they deny the danger of it. Somebody else has asked whether or not this, maybe we should ask this later, is whether any of this is discussion, which may also tie in with the painting later, is helpful to you. talking about it. Someone's just asked, is it actually helpful?
I can say now that yes, it is, because you do wake up. I wake up from this dream. I woke up from this dream twice in the last, I don't know, is it 10 days? I'm exhausted, really exhausted. It wrecked your whole day. I don't know whether I've always imagined that I'm not sleeping. So I'm not sleeping very well. I have this dream, and then you don't want to go back off to sleep. So, is it helpful to talk about it? It's helpful for me to work out why these people are placed in my dream at the moment, and how to untie all the meaning within it so that I can deal with it and in some way sleep through it and get some calm from it. There's things that most people are doing at the moment, like turning off the news, not watching any social media stuff. This pandemic. I'm saving it all up for afterwards when we're all out the other side, and I can be in the party room. But it's certainly, I think I'm hoping to get a lot of help from this. But it'd be nice to get rid of this dream and not have it back again. Be nice to not get nightmares. I don't think anyone wants nightmares.
Yes. Well, let's see whether that happens. I hope it does. Yes. One person says lots of things in the dream reminded her of children's books like Alice in Wonderland and Where the Wild Things Are, Mog the Cat. Is this something that reflects on Libby? She says, is she a mother, or would these be from her own childhood? Because you might look too young to be a mother. I think the implication there is.
I have 4 grown-up children, and in fact, I've never really been into Alice in Wonderland and Where the Wild Things Are. The books that were from my childhood. I was born in 1963, and my family were not well endowed with books and money. I had one book growing up called Bianca, which was about a squirrel that got lost. And in fact, I do wonder, now you've brought this up, that the trees in my dream are from that book, because it's called Bianca. It was an albino squirrel that was different from all the other squirrels and was cast out and travelled through the forest. And I had that book. I still got it somewhere, and it's now just papers, because I read it every night until I was about 11. And when I was about 3, it was read to me when I was 11. I never had another book, really. That was my comfort book. So I'm wondering, see, you're helpful already. I'm wondering whether that has invaded my dream, because certainly that squirrel, that albino Bianca, goes through the forest, and is very small with very tall trees, trying to stay alive. So maybe this is my childhood book. But no, I never really liked Where the Wild Things Are. I shouldn't say that, should I? And Alice in Wonderland is, no, not me.
Yeah, but you did have one about...
My poor children didn't have those books.
But you did have one about the squirrel, what is it, a brave squirrel going through the woods?
Yeah, Bianca, the squirrel, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was one of my only books.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that question, which was on here about that. Somebody else says, oh, yes, the wine drinkers, the 2 worlds. And somebody else does say that the trees are like in Where the Wild Things Are, but like you said, you weren't that. No. It may be from the other dream instead. And someone else wonders about cats in dreams representing the state of her health. And the use of animals as that animals can be really quite healing, and jaguars climb trees. But I don't know whether anybody else has got any final comments. I mean, I think the dream does seem to be the chronology of what's happened to Libby over time from noticing the leaves aren't quite right
Yeah.
in the darkness and
Yeah, there's a lot in it that I wish it would wake me up before I get to the end. So I could say, stream, wake up.
Yes. Well, possibly now that, you know, we've had a long discussion about it, it's possible that in the middle of it you'll remember, but no, this was the dream I said, you know, this is a dream, and you either run out the back door or you stop the dream, or
I shut the door.
or you shut the door at the very start and nothing else happens. Quite a few people saying thank you for sharing, Libby. So we're having lots of really positive comments. So thank you so much for it. It may take a while for Julia to finish. So what we'll probably do is to just leave the camera on Julia. We've got to show you it, haven't we? Libby.
Well, it's not quite
finished. It may take a little bit longer to finish. How are you anyway, Libby? What are you going to be doing now?
The same.
The same.
My tiny room.
Yes.
Very nice, Libby.
Yeah, I'm going to
Julia.
walk the other side of the bed. I know it sounds strange. There's something very wonderful about just being on your own in one room for a long time. But it's very addictive. I might have to do it again, but not in a strange, organised way. But just actually, it's almost like when you go on a holiday and it's not so good, so you end up staying in the hotel the whole time. It's a bit like that, and you actually enjoy that. You know, you can read. I've not been able to read much, but you can certainly rest. And I'm not in danger here, so I always think, I've been thinking this week, I'm really lucky I'm not in danger. I'm not standing on an ITU with a patient being intubated or any coughing. We do tend to visualise this virus at work, see it travelling across the air towards us, and I'm not in there having to experience that terror. So I will sit in my room and I will enjoy the feeling of security. I feel very disconnected from the team I work with, and that's the saddest thing, is that I want to be standing next to them and be part of helping the whole team get through, because it's horrific. It's horrific.
And who's bringing you food? Is
Ed's bringing me food.
Oh, great.
I get forgotten every now and again.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the week I've not been eating very much, so I think I'm now starting to feel better. So I'm feeling hungry for the first time. Yesterday I wanted to eat 3 meals a day, not one. So that kind of threw, Eddie's watching, that kind of threw me a bit. But no, and I'm grateful for anything that comes to the door. I'm just grateful to not be in hospital and not be on a ventilator and not be unwell. Right. I'd like to be able to take a deep breath, and I can't imagine ever running on a beach again, but I'm sure I will. And I hope everyone stays safe out there and look after themselves. This very strange virus.
Yeah. Well, I hope your lungs are okay.
They'll be fine.
At the end of it all. So,
Okay, I'll show this now, and then I can do a little bit more.
So Julia's going to show the painting that she's been doing during this period. Just to make clear to everybody, as always happens, Julia never knows what the dream is until the person starts talking, and telling the dream. In this instance, just in case we did get a problem with the connect, Libby had actually sent me the text of it, but I didn't tell you anything about it because Julia just always likes to hear it and get an impression and her own picture and imagination of it when it's done during the actual discussion. So the whole painting is done during this just about 1.5 hours of the discussion. So I'm going to change this. All right, Julia's doing it like that, and I'm going to. It's not
quite finished, everybody.
Yeah, it's not quite finished.
This section,
hang on. Let me just get Libby looking because Libby's on Skype. Can you see that? Okay, Libby.
I need a bit.
Wow.
I need a bit longer, Libby. But this is the room at the beginning. This is the hallway with the dream is a kind of light in itself, is a kind of white light. And then it says here, example in which occurred the evening with a medical word, which I thought was interesting. And then here it says German gardener. So there's quite a few bits of language here about flowers and things. Anyway, this is you at the door.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Whom I told the story. So and it says patient here as well, underneath your arm. And then this is the enormous door with the frame that you were talking about. And that's the door open. And you go out into this section here, which was a bit of spoken language from a bride and a groom, interestingly. And then these are kind of like, for me, these were like silver birches here. And then this is your mother with the cat, and it says underlying dream here where the cat is. And then this is the big cat coming down here, and the big cat is then going over into this room where you are here with the cat in front of it's over your face. The cat is over you. And this is the guy, although you said he didn't have a tube, I kind of put him in a suit on a bed, and it says the main symbol is this character here, and this is the curling
Tube.
Yeah, the tube that you mentioned was black, and in here it says such symbolism, folklore, myths, presented, forced, dreams expressed a similar idea, friend, dreams, the anatomy in earlier novels. And over here is the guy, and I've kind of got your hand. This is your hand here, and your hand is kind of reaching for him. So he's sort of cupped in your hand partially, but he's got his red trousers on. And it says here, dream, single, manifest elements. So I haven't quite finished this bit here. And this is when you run back in, these are the stairs and the people with no faces. And interestingly, one of them is called has got childhood, hand, reminiscence of a scene, proceeding, flowers behind. Oh, here as well it says branches off to the other branch ideas to the title of the hastily seen episode. That's kind of just been located in the text, but I quite like branches off to the other branch. And you were talking about these sort of very thin branches of the trees, or what do you call them? Not stems. What are they? What's the main thing of the tree?
Trunk.
Yeah, trunks of the trees. So that I found that in the text, which I thought related to the trees, and then it sort of everything kind of came up through this section to reach the trees, and these are the sort of curling, strange leaves as well. Yeah. And in here it sort of says things like, look up, let me see you, let me hear you. So there's sort of a lot of things again, turn to me again, my beloved, and things like that, because this is obviously about a bride and groom. This is the character here leaning against the wall. So I would like to just spend another 5 or 10 minutes just finishing it. But that's kind of what. Oh, here's your mother I don't know if you can see.
I can.
With her
With the
little,
cat,
with
the
her, with her
blanket.
little,
Her shoes.
yeah.
And just to make clear to Libby and everybody watching, although some of you know this already, that at the start of the discussion, Julia just flicks through the pages, and on the basis of the number of scenes, say, and things like that, Julia picks out pages by the shape of the text. And so the words that she's just spotted just happen to be there. And they're often really quite appropriate and quite eerily appropriate, in fact, especially where you've got branches and other things. And so they are a bit eerily appropriate. And one of the...
can I say here as well, where the cat is, it says, interpretation of dream symbolism, the representation of wild beasts, which is in the body of the cat. Which is
spooky.
Yeah.
So some of it does get very spooky and eerie, that some of the words are really quite...
and it's here, where it says symbolism in the bed and association of dreams in that bed and symbolism as well. So there's a lot of symbol and symbolism in this particular page, which is quite fun.
Somebody's just typed in, or a few people have just typed in, one person's just typed in that trees could be the lungs.
Yes.
Another person says, lovely work, Julia.
Oh, thank you.
Another person, virus is branching out exponentially.
Yes, of course. Yes, because this almost, for me, this does look, Mark, this section here.
Yes.
Are you on it?
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
This section here looks like because of the way it started to form, it looks like even an even bigger sort of branch or tree
like the
that's
virus
kind
is
of
doing.
holding. Yeah, so there is a sense of almost like a kind of branching out. Yeah, that's a really good point.
All right.
So this is where not only does talking about the dream bring insights, but of course the drawing and the words and the strange
serendipity.
Yes, thank you. Serendipity of the words sort of pulls up other insights into the dream, and that's the other thing that we're quite interested in, how the painting, and of course Freud spoke about dreams being in another language, and that language was far more related to imagery than it is to words. So that's something else that we're looking at. Oh, you've gone into low power mode.
Oh, yeah, no, that's okay. I'll get some more. Are you okay, Libby?
I am. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we do a scan. Some people watching will know this, but it's just to tell everybody. We do a high definition scan of the painting. Because the and then they end up like if I just show up there's some paintings in the background of similar sort of ones. Could you move that white thing? Could you? And so what we do is we enlarge the painting after it's been scanned, and we make a high quality art print of it, and then it's included in a work of art like those which has the dream underneath.
And it's better than having this book page, because we have got a version. This is one where we just framed up the book page here. This was a dream of Mark's, and actually what's happened is that the book page has just got really yellow. You know, like it's
Decomposed.
it's going. You know, it's going to eventually go. Whereas if you look at this, which is a Giclée print, it's a high quality print, that just remains the same. It doesn't deteriorate in a print quality. So having a print is much better. And then what we do is we will put your dream underneath for you, Libby.
Okay.
And so you'll always remember it like this as your dream. So
I'm trying to forget my dream.
So yes, don't worry. No, we always sort of get them from the.
I'm only joking.
Yeah, no, we got the dream, so we'll get that, and we'll agree the dream with you just to make sure it's sort of said it all perfectly.
But you know,
say, Julia, that's just beautiful.
oh, thank you, Libby.
You've got the person, the man leaning in the red trousers. Perfect. That's exactly how he was leaning.
Oh yeah, and in him, inside of him, it says Oh, what did I? Oh yes, in his arm, Libby, it says relationship.
No, because he's
So,
had relationships with you.
No, I just mean that every person you've had who's been there has always somebody who's had this relationship, isn't it? So I thought that was
Yeah.
yeah.
So just to ask somebody who's just typed in, and it was replied, somebody said, does Julia always use Freud's book?
Yes.
We have found that Freud's book is really good for just having those by chance words that are often really quite resonating. And it's quite nice, really, as well as having a painting, to have a painting of the dream, but it also includes words in it that Freud had written in 1899. And somebody's written about, does Julia use other books? We prefer to use this.
I have done.
We tried to. But
I've tried to use. We were asked to do this at an event to do with the celebration, the centenary of Mary Shelley's book Frankenstein, and we used Frankenstein, and it just doesn't work. We did a few, but it just doesn't work because you have to have. Show you the book a little bit for people who are interested, and this is why. I mean, we haven't tried using a similar book, a similar textbook actually. But what's nice about this is I just look for. Can you see this?
Yeah.
I just look for sort of shapes and sections in the text. So sort of this kind of thing, you know. Like small writing, you know, all I'm looking at, I'm not at all looking at the theory in here. I'm looking at the shapes of the text and how I can make them into an image. So here, for example, you know, you've got like different sized bits of text, so very small footnotes and things like that. So, and then of course the whole book references dreams all the time and people's dreams and words, so the words that come up are really rich, you know, within that. So that's why I use that book. It's not really we're not slavishly linked to Freud. It's just a really, for me visually, it's a really good book to use.
The other point about Freud is that he did really discover the method of taking the individual components of the dream, like we've just done with Libby, and to say, right, jaguar, you know, what does that mean to you? And the trees outside, what do they mean to you? And really just sort of taking all the individual bits of the dream and trying to see what comes from Libby's memories and recent life that may have gone into it. And that was a method that Freud, in a way, invented. And so we're using his book partly in recognition of that. He may have gone a bit crazy in some of his theories, but the actual method that he used of taking an individual's dream and asking them to look at the different parts of it separately is one that scientists now use. And so for that reason, we do stick with his book, as well as for the fact that, as Julia's just said, it's got parts of the pages. I mean, there's some of them have even got diagrams on. So recently we did one recently at Freud's house in London, where somebody had given a dream about she'd gone into a toilet cubicle, and so Julia managed to use a diagram which had lots of sort of squares on it, or oblongs, and used those to depict the person in the toilet cubicles. So we found it a very useful book because of that. But like I do reinforce that a lot of the words that Julia finds, if not practically all of them, are there in a way by chance, and Julia does spot them during the printing process, the painting process, and may sort of highlight them.
And we've also shown them to the dreamer, and the dreamer will say something like, "Oh my God, that it says Turkey in there, and my dream was all set in Turkey, but I didn't mention that to you guys."
Yeah, then we've had it sometimes that some of the words that Julia's highlighted spark off, or didn't even know of their sort of relevance to the person. I'll twist.
So it's all about, we quite like the idea that there's a relationship to free association as well, so which is Freud's kind of idea, isn't it?
So we've had some more things. Somebody asked about other books, but somebody replied about Julia always uses Freud's interpretation of dreams. Another person saying, fascinating, lovely visual depiction, Julia.
Oh, thank you.
And then deepest gratitude to you, Libby,
Yes,
for sharing
indeed.
and all that you do to keep everyone safe. Heart, get well soon and stay safe. Heart. And that's had a like on it. Another person writing excellent drawing of the dream. Yeah, so this will be finished soon, and then what we'll do is what we were going to do this evening was we've got special permission to go into the university because everything is absolutely strictly locked up, but it's the only place where we really high definition
PDF.
high definition, yeah, or JPEG of the dream, and so we will scan it, and from that we can then put it up on the website later. That's assuming that's okay with you, Libby, to have it up, and then we can use this.
Completely privileged to have your attention, actually.
Oh well, we're privileged to have you
Blimey,
doing
Libby.
all you're
Yeah,
doing.
thank you
You're
so
the one
much
who's
for everything
doing.
you're
the one who's doing. We're just here with the wine.
Yeah.
Actually,
not quite.
Not quite. not quite.
But Libby, you know, can't thank you enough for what you're doing and your team.
Yes. And so we'll then we'll put that up so the world can see it, and so we could, you know, tweet and other things about this, as this is a current nurse's dream.
Can I just say something else, Libby? By this character against the wall, it also says only strictly speaking, which is what you were trying to do. You were trying to speak strictly. Yeah. So again, it's like serendipitous stuff. So
another person said Libby's been like a shaman dreaming a warning dream for the tribe. She's amazing. Full power to her recovery.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you for that.
I don't feel like a power thing.
We've had another one. Thank you, Julia, Libby, Mark. Really great to be able to be part of this. Well, I'm glad it all the technology worked actually. Yeah. So, which is great. Another one. How brilliant is another comment. So what we'll do is once it's finished, we will.
Oh, Libby, they've all got wine glasses.
And she's given wine glasses to all the people in the room. And then we'll scan it. People will then be able to see that on the Facebook page, but also we'll put it onto the website so that people can see it. People can see it there, and we can also show the world about it. About this is such an issue that it's even affecting people's dreams and giving them nightmares about how bad the situation is.
And if people are interested, we would be really happy to do more with other people, you know, with other people's dreams. So you've got another one?
Well, I can certainly, I think people that are going through looking after seriously sick patients and are involved with COVID would be really good if
yeah.
You know, that would be really.
Yeah, we'd be really.
Yeah, no, we'd be really pleased to do that.
We'd be honoured, you know,
if
it was at all useful, we would be honoured to do that.
And you, Libby, have mentioned the possibility of this stopping nightmares. You know, I mean, we have had that of people say in the past, given us a nightmare, and by the time we've got the painting to them, they say this hasn't happened again, and so
yeah,
it would be nice to know if we'd helped people that way. Another person saying, amazing, we'll call you later, Libby. That was from Deb.
Aww. So I've given all little glasses, and he's got little.
Oh look, even the man with the red trousers has got a red wine glass. Oh, batteries.
Yeah, battery.
No.
You might need to plug it in.
So the man with the wine glasses, the man with the red glasses has got red trousers has now got a red wine glass. Somebody else has put, brilliant workshop, well done. What better way to spend a Saturday afternoon? Thank you. Well, thank you for that comment. This will all be on Facebook saved later on, so people can
have a look.
Speed through it or watch it in real time as the 2 hours, and they can see all the very many comments that people from around the world have been making over the last 2 hours.
Yeah, and do get in contact if there are people in the NHS who want to do this, because we're just sitting at home, so we're happy to do this if it's helpful to people. And you know, it's so wonderful to hear what you know what's going on, really, Libby. You know, it's a good way to share.
And people on the site, if you're in other countries, we can of course do it for people there, because we've done this by Skype across, you know, thousands of miles, so we're very well able to do that.
Well, I think we should put the dream, you know, maybe put the finished dream up on the site now. And
yeah, what we usually do is we take a photograph with the camera, just so that it's a quick, immediate photo, and we can then post that so that people, as well as being able to see the whole film, can see the finished artwork as well. And that'll be made with a camera, and then later on today we'll get into work to scan it, and then we can upload the proper, really high definition one.
Are there any other questions that anybody's got, or Libby, have you got any other comments or?
No, it's very eerie seeing the dream on paper. Whether it's a bit disturbing, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that would happen. I don't know if other people feel that when they get their dreams drawn.
I do often feel it's incredibly
weird.
Striking. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's some weird stuff.
There's some weird stuff that happens in dreams, but when Julia's actually depicting it, we had one guy last year who dreamt of a wheat field, and the wheat field was very, very meaningful, and there Julia had depicted it almost sort of Van Gogh-like with very thick yellow paint, and it was really quite striking. So we often have people who are really a bit knocked out by it. We've just had somebody who said they've got a Survey Monkey link because they're doing COVID-19 dreams and doing research onto them. Yeah. So no. So Libby was just saying how striking it is.
The battery.
Yeah.
You need to plug it in, love, with the long one, the very long one. Yeah.
Anyone have any? Oh, Deidre Barrett, someone else has put a survey up. Oh, who's got 163 people so far who have answered with their COVID dreams. Oh no, 163 people with 400 dreams. So that's Deirdre Barrett's site on Survey Monkey. And so people will be able to see that. Actually, I'll paste those into a message later on. So grateful to have had those. But yes, Libby, these are often quite striking. We've often had very, very positive comments about people who've had a quite meaningful dream or a very meaningful dream, and there they've got it to look at, and above all, not only to look at, but to share with other people and to talk about with other people. Somebody's put the question, has anyone else thought about this idea? It's a brilliant idea, hang on to it. And there are people who are painting their own dreams and some of those are really remarkable. Some of you might have seen one by Deirdre Barrett was in the Vice media article. So she'd got a dream of a Viennese person with a Viennese anti-plague mask, which was an amazing painting. So a lot of people are doing paintings of their own dreams.
But we started.
But we don't know whether other people are doing paintings of
not as far
paintings
as I know.
plus a full discussion of somebody else's is not really happening as far as we know.
I think we're the only people doing it. But we started doing it in 2018 because 2016 because we were asked to do something for a science festival, and then we've done since, and we've actually got a book coming out which is looking at the science and art of dreaming, and it's going to be a book that has a set of 20 of these paintings, so we may well use this one, Libby, and then we're going to talk about how artists have looked at dreaming, and also the science of dreaming. So hopefully people will be interested in that. It's coming out with Routledge. So we've got lots of time to write it now.
Somebody has written up about, is this about a survey of pandemic dreams? Yes, 2 people have written up about surveys of pandemic dreams that they're doing. I'll copy those links later, and yeah, but I think that the comment just before that, as anybody else thought of this idea, was referring to simultaneous dream discussion and painting for the dreamer at the same time, which is, as far as we know, quite at the moment is quite novel. Maybe people have done that in the past. Somebody has just written, we're saying dreams, but Libby shared a capital letters nightmare. Very freaky and scary, of course. So we do, thanks for that reminder. We do appreciate the fact that it's actually horrific rather than just a dream. And we've just been given the name of Judy Pascoe, who does painting dreams, as does Deirdre Barrett and other people. So just a reminder that the painting of dreams is done by various
and of course the
people.
whole of surrealism was about painting dreams. So, like people, that's well established.
Yeah. So we are interested in the links between this and surrealism of... because of their love for dreams and irrational processes
and it does
as well.
seem like we're entering a really similar time to when the surrealists were working, which was a time when we were looking for alternatives to the status quo, the sort of paradigm shifts really, and that artistic way of doing something is can add something.
And that, of course, was being done at a time of horror because of the First World War. So, yes.
Right, I am now going to stop. I think
Julia has.
I think I have kind of just painted around there as much as I want to. I don't want it to be an hour. It's supposed to be an hour, isn't it? How long have we been?
We've done 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
So. Yes. So for people looking, I'm trying to make it as large as possible in the. Oh, right. Somebody's just said. Oh, somebody says I have to go now, Mark. Thank you so much for this, and hope you do this again. Just in answer to that one, yes, we will be doing this again. Especially was the technology did work.
Yeah.
We did seem to be able to do it, and we're very moved by Libby's dreams. So we will be doing this again. Soon, especially as we're locked in, and because it's a useful process as well, by the look of it. Deirdre, thank you. That black cat expanding is a very surreal image. Thank you. Yes, it's and I can see its claws and its eyes. So when we upload it later on to the website and to the Facebook page, people will be able to expand the image as well. And so you'll be able to, oh, somebody said a huge hug to Libby.
Yes.
Hope she recovers sometime soon. And so what happens is when we do a scan of it, we'll put that on the website, we'll put that on Facebook, and when you see that, you can of course put your fingers on it and expand it. And so often, you know, as was just mentioned about the panther, you can see its little claws and you can see its eyes and face. So at some points of the website, we do have expanded details of some of the paintings, which are really quite really quite sort of detailed. I was about to say Bosch like, but that would have been embarrassing to. But it's sort of very, very fine detail, some of it. So that jaguar, yes, it's
but I like this bit where the shape of that's the big black cat. Look over Libby's face. It's like that's got face mask, and that's the cat. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes, you've got the face mask and the cat. They're both sort of the things that go over the face like that. So, wow. So we will now take a photo of that and put it up. That's just a iPhone photo. Put it up so you can see it very quickly, and then later in the day we will get ourselves allowed into the university buildings to get a
oh yeah, and Libby, on your nose it says familiar, which I thought was quite,
oh, which is what your cat is.
Yeah.
So yes, so we're going to take a photo of that. We're going to say thank you to everybody.
Yes.
We're going to say a special thank you to Libby.
Yeah,
Libby,
thank you, Libby.
Thank you very much. I'll put you at the front again just because everybody will want to see you.
I feel like I need to give you a clap, Libby.
Yes, well done, Libby. And people are clapping, yes. And thank you also to Julia, who's done the excellent painting again.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks, Libby.
And which she only heard 2 hours ago, so that's resulted in the painting. Somebody else has just said thanks for a lovely afternoon in this waking nightmare.
Yes,
and that the familiar is spooky stuff. So it is. So we'll say absolutely thank you to everybody. Thank you especially to Libby. Thank you to Julia for the painting, and thank you all the very many people who've logged on to be with us for this. We will be doing another one because, we'll be doing lots actually, because this does seem to be important to do, and we're very, very glad and honoured to do so. So thank you all very much, and thank you all. It's the afternoon here, so whatever time zone it is, wherever you all are, we hope you're all okay and staying in and are safe. Somebody else has just said thank you, Mark, Julia, and Libby. Tremendous.
Oh, thank you.
Spelt phonetically, which is funny. Thank you.
If anyone's got any ideas about how we could improve, communication, like we're using Skype and Facebook, but if there are better ways of doing this, we're open to any advice anyone's got to, if you know better ways of doing this. Yeah.
So thank you all very much, and we wish everybody all the best for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Best of wishes from Julia. I'll just come round and just say hello to everybody again. So, as I hadn't been. You could say no. Bye bye, Libby. Really good to see you. I'm just going to dive down here so people do actually see me, and it's really nice to have seen everybody. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Libby. We can bring you dinner later on. No, we seriously can, because we've got some being cooked. Oh, all right. Okay. You're right. Okay. Okay. See you soon. Right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Libby. Bye-bye. Right. So Libby's saying goodbye. And I'm going to write thank you, everyone. We will save the recording now and photograph the painting quickly and do thank you everyone, and see you next time.
Maybe we should work out a better time to do it, so to, you know, more people could tune in from different places.
Yeah, I think we've got quite a few. Great, thank you all very much. So
Yep, finished.
once it's that's great. I'll just get the final snap with
Well,
this.
I will do a little bit more on these stairs and stuff. But yeah, do.